Good morning and welcome to Psalms in Hebrew and Comparative Translations. This morning we are going to be looking at Psalm 69. The and just for in terms of our next meeting will be 2 weeks from now on the 20th, because next week I am at a conference. All right. So, like usual, we'll begin with reading the psalm in Hebrew and then in at least one translation. And we'll have an opportunity to, on that first read through, think about what it is that the psalm brings up emotionally for us. And if we were going to use this psalm in our spiritual lives, in what context would we use it? All right. למנצח על שושנים לדוד, הושיעני אלוהים כי באו מים עד נפש. טבעתי בבין, בבין מצולה ואין מועמד, באתי במעמקי מים ושיבולת שטפתני. יגעתי וקוראי ניחר גרוני, כלו עיניי מייחל לאלוהי. רבו משערות ראשי, שונאי חינם עצמו מצמיתי, אויבי שקר אשר לא גזלתי אז אשיב. אלוהים, אתה ידעת לאיוולתי, ואשמותי ממך לא נכחדו. אל יבושו בי קובך אדוני, אלוהים צבאות, אל יקלמו בי מבקשך, אלוהי ישראל. כי עליך נשאתי חרפה, כיסתה כלימה פניי. מוזר הייתי לאחי ונוכרי לבני אמי, כי קינת ביתך אכלתני, וחרפות חורפיך נפלו עלי. ואבכה בצום נפשי, ותהי לחרפות לי, ואתנה לבושי שק, ואהי להם למשל. ישיחו בי יושבי שער, ונגינות שותי שחר. ואני תפילתי לך, אדוני, עת רצון, אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת ישך. הצילני מתית, ואל אטבעה, ואנצלה משונאי, וממעמקי מים. אל תשטפני שיבולת מים, ואל תבלעני מצולה, ואל תתר עלי באר פיה. ענני אדוני כי טוב חסדך, כרוב רחמך פני אלי. ואל תסתר פניך מעבדך, כי צר לי מהר ענני. מהר ענני. קרבה אל נפשי גאלה למען אויבי פדני. אתה ידעת חרפתי ובושתי וכלימתי נגדך כל צוררי. חרפה שברה ליבי, ואנושה ואכבה לנוד, ואין ולמנחמים ולא מצאתי. ויתנו בברותי ראש, וליץ מאי ישכוני חומץ. יהי שולחנם לפניהם לפח, ולשלומים למוקש. תחשכנה עיניהם מראות, ומותניהם תמיד עמד. Haman. Shefoch aleihem za'amecha v'charon apecha yasigim. Tehi tehiratam nishama be'ohalehem al yehi yoshev. Ki ata asher hikita radafu ve'al machov chalalecha yisaperu.
Wow. So,
Tina avon al avonam ve'al yavo b'tzid katecha. Yimachu mi sefer chayim ve'im tzadikim al yikatevu. Va'ani ani v'choev yeshuatcha Elohim tisagveni. Allah Shem Elohim Bashir v'agadlenu b'toda. V'titav ladonai mishor par makrin mafris. Ra'u anavim yismachu dorshei Elohim v'chi levavchem. Ki shomea el evyonim Adonai ve'et asirav lo vaza. Yehalaluhu shamayim va'aretz yamim v'chol romeis bam. Ki Elohim Yoshia Tzion v'yivne arei Yehuda v'yashvu sham v'reshua. V'zera avadam yin chaluha ve'ohavei shemo yishkenuva. Alba,
Yes,
would you be willing to read the Revised Jewish Publication Society translation?
absolutely. I would be willing. So, for the leader on Shoshanim of David, deliver me, O God, for the waters have reached my neck. I am sinking into the slimy deep and find no foothold. I have come into the watery depths. The flood sweeps me away. I am weary with calling. My throat is dry. My eyes fail while I wait for God. More numerous than the hairs of my head, and those who hate me are those who hate me without reason. Many are those who would destroy me, my treacherous enemies. Must I restore what I have not stolen? God, you know my folly. My guilty deeds are not hidden from you. Let those who look to you, O my sovereign God of hosts, not be disappointed on my account. Let those who seek you, O God of Israel, not be ashamed because of me. It is for your sake that I need you to raise this up. There we go. That I have been reviled, that shame covers my face.
bigger.
I am a stranger to my kin, an alien to my own siblings. My zeal for your house has been my undoing. The reproaches of those who revile you have fallen upon me. When I wept and fasted, I was reviled for it. I made sackcloth my garment. I became a byword among them. Those who sit in the gate talk about me. I am the taunt of drunkards. As for me, may my prayer come to you, O Eternal One, at a favorable moment. O God, in your abundant faithfulness, answer me with your sure deliverance. Rescue me from the mire. Let me not sink. Let me be rescued from my enemies and from the watery depths. Let the floodwaters not sweep me away. Let the deep not swallow me. Let the mouth of the pit not close over me. Answer me, O Eternal One, according to your great steadfastness, in accordance with your abundant mercy, turn to me. Do not hide your face from your servant, for I am in distress. Answer me quickly. Come near to me and redeem me. Free me from my enemies. You know my reproach, my shame, my disgrace. You are aware of all my foes. Reproach breaks my heart. I am in despair. I hope for consolation, but there is none. For comforters, but find none. Moment, team. I need a drink of water. They give me gall for food, vinegar to quench my thirst. May their table be a trap for them, a snare for their allies. May their eyes grow dim so they cannot see. May their loins collapse continually. Pour out your wrath on them. May your blazing anger overtake them. May their encampment be desolate. May their tents stand empty. For they persecute those you have struck. They talk about the pain of those you have felled, and that to their guilt let them have no share of your beneficence. May they be erased from the book of life and not be inscribed with the righteousness. But I am lonely and in pain. Your help, O God, keeps me safe. I will extol God's name with song, exaltation, and praise. That will please God more than oxen and bulls with horns and hooves. The lowly will see and rejoice. You who are mindful of God, take heart, for God listens to the needy and does not spurn those held captive. Heaven and earth shall sing praise, the seas and all that moves in them. For God will deliver Zion and rebuild the cities of Judah, which shall live there, they shall live there and inherit it. The offspring of God's servants shall possess it. Those who cherish God's name shall dwell there. Hmm, that's nice.
All right. So first thoughts, first uh sense of this psalm.
Depressing.
I am
Complicated.
drowning.
It's
You think
complicated.
Murray, you say it's complicated. March, you say it's depressing.
Yeah.
What's depressing about it?
He sounds so discouraged about everything. I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I am lowly and in pain,
right.
but your help, O God, keeps me safe.
Exactly. The last 10 lines are really nice.
Yeah,
They're really nice.
I agree with Marsha. This is a moment of a low moment in the person's life with
You know, sorry.
all sorts of issues that are flooding the situation, and person is looking for some kind of rescue, a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of help, because in the end, the person is a true believer and relies on God, and God is the stalwart for him or for her, and
Not sure.
it's a very difficult poem. You know, and all the things, in spite of his difficulties and low point, he still has the strength and the courage to emerge from it with the help that he's seeking.
nice. Barbara,
Cool.
you have to unmute.
There we go. I agree with what Murray just said. I sometimes when I'm riding the waves of my own life, it feels sort of like um, I can, in my head, praise God, but I also feel the despair, and I have to reach for the real firm faith that's underneath that head faith, the faith that knows, not the faith that is just book knowledge or just saying something. Um, and it feels to me like he might be teetering a little back and forth.
May I add a comment here?
Yeah,
The one thing that surprises me in many of these despairing moments, that the person seeks help and guidance from a deity and not looking inwardly, saying, what can I do? What can I do to emerge from this mire, from this difficult situation? And how can I become better and safer? But it's
Mm.
all reliance on God.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
frequently had This is a personal point. I frequently engage in personal introspection. Some may call meditation, but for me, it's examining my own being at a particular time. And I look to myself to ask, what is it that I have done or may be able to do to improve the situation and
Mhm,
out of it is
mhm,
looking always for somebody else's rescue.
Hmm.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
But
So are you
why does
saying,
he have so many enemies?
well, that's a great question. Right. A lot of the Psalms talk about enemies. And I think, you know, at least growing up in the late 20th century, I was taught not to think so much about enemies. But there are enemies. I, you know, sometimes my kids will read a book and then they'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm scared of the monster under my bed." And I want to say there are no monsters, but I always feel like I'm lying when I say that because there are monsters.
Mhm.
Right.
They're not monsters under your bed, right? Like your bedroom is safe. Thank God. But monsters are real. You got them
Mhm.
in the world. And I always wonder, is it better to be honest about that? I mean, obviously not during bedtime, but at other times. Uh One way to read this question of enemies and also one way to read this psalm is to think about it as th- the vulnerability or of a religious leader. Here's one commentary. There is an emotional
Mhm.
state that public figures know well, especially if they are in leadership positions. David, the psalmist, describes this state exquisitely in our psalm. On the one hand, the leader feels privileged to have been chosen for this position. A religious leader, convinced that his position has been divinely ordained, feels especially privileged. But on the other hand, the pressures of his office are often overwhelming. He experiences reproach from his critics, and that stings him to his very core. He is painfully embarrassed by the taunts which are mercilessly hurled at him, undermining the self assurance he requires if he is to lead successfully. At such moments, he cannot suppress the resentment which threatens to poison his soul. He is moved to exclaim to God, as did David, "It is for your sake that I suffer reproach, that shame covers my face." One can easily imagine David saying to himself, "Who needed all of this? I could have remained a humble shepherd, the kid brother in a close knit family. Had I stayed back on the homestead, I would never have provoked all of these envious schemes. I wouldn't have incurred all of this enmity. The weight of endless royal responsibilities would not be on my shoulders, and I would have avoided all this palace intrigue. More unbearable than the burdens of office and the hostile challenges to his authority is the loneliness which inevitably comes with positions of leadership. I have become a stranger to my brothers, an alien to the sons of my own mother. Not only does the leader feel the distance between him and his constituency, but he can no longer be comforted by those who were once closest to him. No man is a prophet in his own hometown. David's brothers knew him when. They cannot bring themselves to see him as he is now, a charismatic leader, a hero, a king. They still see him as a youngster, motivated by naive curiosity and preoccupied with childish daydreams. They cannot take him seriously, and he knows it. His adult self will forever be estranged from them. David is a deeply spiritual person, the sweet singer of Israel. He is sincerely devoted to God and hopes to find succor, if not with his friends of yore, then perhaps with those who share his profound religious experiences. But here too, he is disappointed. When I wept and fasted, I was taunted for it. They doubt the sincerity of my religious activities. They consider me a hypocrite. He is tempted to turn to others in leadership roles to allay his desperate loneliness. Surely, he reasons, those who sit by the town gate, those who occupy judicial positions, will empathize with him and will at least allow him their compassionate company. But, alas, they too talk about me derisively and sing the song of drunkards. Such loneliness can ruin a person, can easily lead one to forfeit their office, either by abusing their privileges or by relinquishing them altogether. David finds a different alternative. He turns to God. The tragic misfortunes which are his lot are the very factors which make him not only the most glorious of kings, but the biblical spiritual exemplar par excellence. He turns all of his trials into opportunities to draw close to the Almighty, who ordained him for leadership in the first place. Hence, he exclaims in a verse which is incorporated throughout Jewish liturgy, "But I, Lord, I pray to you, may it be at a favorable moment. God, in your abundant loving kindness, answer me with your true deliverance." The Talmudic sages wonder, what is an eighth ratzon, a favorable moment for prayer? They respond that such favorable moments exist when the community prays in unison, and not necessarily when one prays alone. David feels the pain of that loneliness and turns to God in search of companionship. David asks God for a favorable moment. How ironic it is that that favorable moment can readily be found, but only in the fellowship of others. Or at least the rabbinic imagination imagines that an eight ratzon for prayer is in the fellowship of others. And so ultimately the this uh we're left with this sense that the religious leader or the king, David the psalmist, is left with an existential loneliness that doesn't go anywhere.
It is interesting that David acknowledges his past misdeeds, and at least he doesn't try to sort of hide them. And I think if more of us were so candid with ourselves, we might have better relations between individuals and as
Yeah, I mean,
leaders.
there's no question, Murray, that one of the things that we get from David is that he sinned greatly and he repented greatly. He understood the consequences of his sins and he really changed his ways. He is through the Psalms, assuming that the Psalms are written by him, but let's say they are. Through many of these Psalms, he shares a deep sense of vulnerability and honesty and truth in the way that he shares about his internal being in the world, about his knowledge of his sin.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And when he's dying, though, the things he says for Solomon to do are awfully vindictive. Oh,
Yeah.
still,
Marsha's reminding us that just this past Saturday when we the Haftarah that we read, um, the the passage from the prophets that we read this past Saturday. After reading about Jacob's deathbed scene during in the Torah portion, we read about David's deathbed scene in the section from prophets. And David's deathbed scene, David says to Solomon, "Here are the people that you can trust who were close to me, and here are the people that you can't trust who were close to me." Right? The people that you can trust are the people who never wavered. But you can't trust the people who were close to me but stabbed my son in the back. Right? David has this whole fight with his son Absalom, and Absalom ends up dying. Absalom declares his own kingship before David even dies. He's like ill, and then Absalom says, "I'm going to be the king," and starts acting like the king. And some of David's close circle go to his son Absalom and support him. And David finds that to have been uh, a betrayal. Although I think he's even more uh, betrayed by his loyal people who killed Avshalom. He's got both, right? Like he doesn't like that Avshalom rebelled and all those people are put to death, but he also doesn't approve of the people who put them to death. Um, so he says to Solomon, "You can't trust these people. If they start to see that that you don't want them close to you." So David's deathbed scene is politically astute and politically vindictive with respect to enemies. And how does that mesh with this vulnerable poet who is able to say, you know, I've been serving God my whole life and everybody else is just they don't get it. But to me, I actually think that is consistent. It's a consistent approach. But I hear that the tone is a little different. After
But
all,
I
he
wonder,
says here,
oops,
he says here, uh, pour out your wrath on them. May your blazing anger overtake them. Right? Even the David of the Psalm is wants the enemies to be crushed.
hmm,
Barbara.
it just occurs to me that it's the same honesty. He's telling Solomon, look honestly at these people, you know, look at what they have done. Do you really want them close to you? And he has that same honesty about his own deeds. But I see what you mean. He does go over the top in terms of vindictive, maybe.
I mean, I think he's trying to set his son Solomon up for success. He doesn't want
Right.
Solomon to have the same mistakes that he had.
Hmm. Hmm.
What are you thinking, Larry? You have to unmute.
Sure, I'll see.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, sorry to be late. Uh, it almost sounds like he's warning him that the religious community is not necessarily your friend. They don't really understand. It's like they're missing something. And the things they're reproaching David for, David's not really saying we're wrong. He's saying uh, they the zeal for thine house hath eaten me up, and the reproaches that when I wept, I chastened my soul with fasting. It was to my I made sackcloth also my God. I did all these things, and they mock me. I'm doing what I should be doing, and they're making fun of me for it. It's almost a reverse that it's like God, they really don't understand you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't do anything wrong. I'm making good for things that I never did.
Yeah. Yeah. Should I have to pay uh should I have to pay reparations for something I didn't steal?
Yeah,
Mm.
pour out your indignation upon them and let your wrathful anger take hold of them, not to punish them, but wake them up. Let them
Ah,
understand what they're doing. You think you're following God, but you're not.
Yeah.
And here,
Mm.
where God is corrects someone in verse 26, for they persecute him whom thou hast smitten, and they talk to the grief of those whom thou hast wounded. Now, God wounds people correctively. And it's like instead of understanding that people then seeking forgiveness and wearing sackcloth, people just scorn them. They're not understanding the mercy of God, how available it is.
mm. Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
little different view of it.
The psalmist here believes that praising God with prayers of thanksgiving, singing psalms of praise is better for God than the sacrifices, than an
Yeah,
ox,
yeah,
right? Which is a repeated thing we've seen in the Psalms, that there's a voice in the tradition that, in spite of the fact that the way that Israelites have traditionally worshiped God is by offering sacrifices, there's this alternative poetic tradition that has a kind of ambivalence toward the sacrificial system. And I think we see that here at the end of this psalm too. I shall celebrate this name of God with song. I shall magnify the Almighty with thanksgiving, which will be better to Adonai than an ox, however strong.
it's
For
almost like
Adonai
he's
listens to the needy.
it's almost like he's saying, grow up, people. That was to teach you the basics. But now grow up. It's your heart that God wants.
Yeah, God wants the poet, says the poet. Little self-serving, right? I mean, that is to
Yeah.
say, I think we all hope that God accepts the kind of prayer that we are able to individually bring to God.
Right.
And that goes back to that Va'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon. I hope that my prayer comes to you, God, at a at a fortuitous time, at a time of your desiring, that it's the right moment for you to listen to my prayer. But we're also saying, I hope that my prayer can be heard. And I think that there's something really powerful about that. So we do have some uses of this psalm in our liturgy. Uh, Sadia Gaon, who's the the author of the first extant Sidur, right? We have we have two very early written prayer books. One is the prayer book of Rav Sadia. There's a prayer book of Rav Chai Gaon, right? They're both from the 8th, 9th, 10th centuries of the Common Era, right? We don't have so many books left over, like physical books, because in that time, a lot of things were oral. Uh,
Right.
the first prayer books were written at about that time. So, verse 3, which is uh
Oh, I can't make me
I
dizzy.
am sinking into a slimy deep. I find no foothold. I have come into the watery depths. The flood sweeps me away. Right? That verse is included in the special Selichot prayers for Erev Rosh Hashanah in the in a prayer written by Sadia Gaon. Verse 7, which is Al Yevoshu Vi Kovecha, Adonai Elohim Tzivaot, Al Yikalmu Vi Mivakshecha, Elohei Yisrael, right? If you can hear it in the Hebrew, Al Yevoshu Vi, Al Yikalmu Vi, right? Those words are adapted into the prayer of the Shaliach Tzibor, the prayer of the Chazan on Yom Kippur, the one that we call the Hineni prayer, maybe the most famous part of the Chazan's repertoire on Yom Kippur is the special prayer that they do right before Musaf, where they pray that that they will not be an embarrassment to the people, that they are going to be able to be, in fact, a good shaliach tzibur, a good emissary, a good leader of the people in this moment of prayer, that any sins that the prayer leader has should not be counted as demerits against the prayers of the entire people going up to heaven, right? And
Mhm.
this verse, let those who look to you, O my sovereign God of hosts, not be disappointed on my account. Let those who seek you, God of Israel, not be shamed because of me. Right? That verse is incorporated into that. The whole idea of that prayer is, let me not be an obstacle in the prayer of everybody else, but hopefully let me, in fact, be a catalyst, a vehicle. Let me inspire the prayers of everybody so that their prayers come up to heaven stronger and not less strong.
Hmm.
Right? Verse 14, the verse that I've quoted several times now. Vani tfilati lecha Adonai ratzon. Elohim barov chastecha, nini bemet yishecha, right? The prayer that my prayer should come to God at an eight ratzon, a time of uh a desirous time. Uh what does it mean to have to have our prayers be an eight ratzon? That is, of course, in the Matovu, the prayer that you say every time you walk into the sanctuary, right? And it's also included on uh in the Torah service on Yom Tov. Va'ani tefilati lecha. Right? We say it right after God's 13 attributes. But Lord, I pray to you, may it be at a favorable moment, God. In your abundant loving kindness, answer me with your true deliverance. Verse 17, Aneni Adonai kitov chastecha kirov rachamecha pnei Elai. That is one of the verses that we say in between the Hakafot on Simchat Torah. Uh, right? Answer me, God, with all of your loving kindness, with all of your
Mm,
mercy. Look at me.
mm,
And I think we change it to plural. We say Anenu, answer us. The rabbis had no trouble rewriting verses from the singular to the plural. The Psalms themselves are very individual, but as we heard from that interpretation, the rabbis really felt that prayer should be done as a community. That an eight ratzon is a time when the community is praying together. So verse 19 is quoted on at in Lachadodi. So verse 19. Korvai el nafshi ge'ala. That phrase is uh is a part of our Lachadodi. Draw nigh unto my soul and redeem it. Just that part. The second half of the verse is not in Lachadodi. Lachadodi is a mystical prayer that was written by Shlomo Halevi Elkabetz in Sfat in the 16th century, and we use it as an entrance into Shabbat on Friday nights. And verse 25, which Shefoch Zamecha. Shefoch Alehem Zamecha V'charon Apcha Yasigim is a part of a four-verse anthology from the Passover Haggadah that begins
mm,
Shefoch Chamatcha, right? Pour out your wrath upon the nations who do not know you. And closes with the verse from the end of chapter 3 of Lamentations, Tirdof ba'af v'tashmidim mitachat shemei Adonai, pursue them and remove them from the face of the earth, right? That anger, wrath, all-consuming, burning wrath that we hope that God will have against the enemies of the Jewish people, right? That's God's province. Human beings, we need to let God have that wrath. And let God be the container for it. So those are some of the ways that we have incorporated this psalm into our liturgy. Thoughts, reactions?
It, it almost seems like he's speaking to the religious community, not just the nations. It's those who let their table become a snare before them, that which should have been for their welfare, let it become a trap. It's almost like they're being hypocrites or just not understanding what you're asking of them, Lord.
mm.
It's the people who should be listening who are the ones who are persecuting me.
Yeah.
These are people who should know better. These are not ignorant people. It's just the sense I get from it.
Yeah, the he thinks that there's gonna be some community with the with the folks who sit at the gate, and yet they also are full of criticism.
There's such humility on the part of the prayer here,
Yeah.
and there's such arrogance on the part of the people that who are persecuting him.
That's certainly how he experiences them, right? He experiences their deep arrogance.
Perception versus reality.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they are really arrogant. And also, right, we don't get their psalm.
Hmm.
Natalie,
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
we can hear you.
It sounds to me as if David is saying it's useless for the community to be wrathful. We're not going to get anywhere that way. You might as well just let God take care of that, which is a very different understanding uh, to me of the relationship to the people, to God. God is the one who helps us find the right way to react. Um, it doesn't seem progressive to let to want God to take care of our problems. It's us who should be taking care of our problems.
Murray said
And
something very similar a little earlier. That
oh, sorry, I wasn't
no,
here.
no, 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 no. I think it's really nice. Like you said it very differently. But the this that there's a I think modern people tend to one of the challenges with these psalms is the way that the psalms seem in some way not to have a sense of human responsibility or, to first try to fix your own stuff. But I don't think that praying to God means that the psalmist is not also working on himself in other ways. And in my experience, a public or a private, a declaration of my limitations or of my struggle in the context of my relationship with God actually helps me sometimes to figure out what way I should be going.
Yes, but you'll be going. You're not telling God to go do it for you. That's exactly my point.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that sometimes, especially with this like burning wrath, and man, I sometimes feel that burning wrath because of the continued anti-Semitism, like the rise in Jew hatred and anti-Jewish bigotry. I don't think that I am able by myself to respond to the world, but I can ask God for help. And I think that God is a vessel. God can take it. God can take my anger and absorb it into God's anger. I think,
Well,
yeah.
praying to God for help is what we do normally. And very often, most often, individuals can't do anything to address the situation, especially of anti Semitism. It has to be a whole community that's doing it together. Um, if God could stop anti Semitism, it would have been done already. But it's people that have to take care of the problems on earth. we always ask God for guidance, and hopefully we find the right way to do it. But that doesn't mean the actual result will come just because God can do our work for us.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Well, let's close with this spiritual applications. My eyes fail, waiting for my God. How often do we long to see a sign that God is with us, that God notices our suffering, that God celebrates with us in our joy? Waiting for God is an important, if difficult, spiritual practice, filled with prayer, with silent listening for God's response, with a taking in of the world, patiently or not, hoping to hear something that will enable us to experience the breath of God's joining our own. My eyes fail suggests that we have grown weary of seeing the suffering and injustice of the world. Sometimes we need to close our eyes to gain a vision of the world that we believe God desires. But we also do not want our yearning to give the wrong message to those not sure that God rules in the world. As verse 7 states, allow not those who hope in you to be ashamed through me. Despite our limitations, we pray that God will reward our faith with evidence of the divine presence that we can share with others. In verse 34, the reference to God's prisoners suggests that God may also feel imprisoned by being kept at a distance from people not yet ready to believe in the Holy One. Most of us have friends who find our faith uncomfortable. For your sake have I borne reproach. I have become estranged from my brothers and sisters. And while most of us would not consider such people enemies, the sense that sometimes we are alone in our belief that God rules the world makes us resonate with the poet's feeling that she is being submerged in a flood of chaotic waters. It is not easy to affirm God's presence in our lives, nor is it easy to attribute both good things and painful ones to the hand of God. This psalm also contains a profound definition of prayer. Verse 14, now part of Matovu, can be interpreted as saying, I am my prayer to you. In our most passionate encounters with God, we do not pray. We are prayer. Our whole being is engulfed in prayer, in a plea for betterment, in praise of the God who has formed every part of us. When that becomes the case, when we embody our prayer, no disdain, no humiliation, no waters of reproach can ever carry us away. For we are, as Psalm 1 declares, a tree planted by a stream of water, offering its fruit when the time is ripe, leafy at all times, never withering. All right. Thank you, everybody. As I mentioned at the top, next week I'm going to be at the Rabbinic Training Institute, RTI. So we'll meet in 2 weeks on the 20th. And Natalie, I will be at the Mastery Residence tomorrow at 11.
See you there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.